welcome to Empowered Voices, where we cultivate inner strength, resilience, and holistic well being, guided by gentleness, self control, and unwavering faith. I'm Tanjika, and I am so glad that you are here with us today. I also have today with me Victoria and Twanda. And today we will be talking about gentleness as power. Last week, if you all were with us, we talked about holistic well being, mind, body, and spirit. If you did not catch that episode, I highly recommend you go back and listen to it. You won't be disappointed. So today, again, we are talking about gentleness as power. What does that mean to us? And where is that coming from? Gentleness as power in a world today where so many feel entitled and get offended by just things that are said and you don't even realize that you're offending someone. So tell me today, how is it in this world that you can still have power and exemplify gentleness?
Right. I think it starts with, understanding what definition people have for power, right? And like in layman's terms, we could look up the definition and view it as some type of means of control or things like that. But I think, when you say gentleness as power, we have to really take a step back and say, okay, well, what does power look like to us? And where did we get that definition from? Was it from our experiences? Was it mom and dad? Who kind of held that leverage over us in our lives and our experiences when we think about the word power? And so it's interesting to me because 15, not even, I'll start with just last year. Last year, power meant something different to me than what it does right now. So it's important, when we categorize these things and when we look at these things that we kind of understand, okay, am I fluid enough, am I flexible enough to change the definition of a word that I've been holding so tight onto, thinking it meant a certain thing, but now it doesn't mean that, it now means this. So I encourage everyone listening to this today that this is very influential in the fact that you might be in a season where power means something different to you than what it did last season, last month, last week, and so why do we start with gentleness as power, right? When I thought about this conversation and just kind of studying it for myself, I went ahead and I looked into Matthew 12 and 37. Matthew 12 and 37 says, what the mouth speaks is what the heart is full of. And so I'm a person specifically, like I can just speak to my own experience, that I'm a person that likes to show up with, a form of integrity, a person that likes to show up not really missing anything. Like I kind of like to have my ducks in a row in a sense, and that might look like I want control over things, but it's not. To me, it doesn't mean that. It just means preparation, right? And so I like to just try to be prepared. But when I think about gentleness as power, that saying didn't always fit that description. It meant preparation. Power was preparation. Power was being ready to be able to sit in a room. And when I think about the verse that I just said, the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. So I had to tell myself, how are you showing up? And can you be gentle and still show up with your integrity and show up with what you define as power? And the answer is yes, because a lot of times we have been conditioned to think that power shows up in having anger, in having the biggest voice, in having the last word. And that's the misconception right there. That's not what power is. you can tell who has the power. I know we've read books, Empowered Voices. If you've been following us, if you've been with us for a while, we're changing the dynamic, we're changing the flow. However, if you've been with us in the early stages, you knew that we are avid book readers, and one of the books we landed on was and I want to make sure I get the title right, but how to about the conversation. I
How
don't
to
care.
start a
How to start a
Next
conversation.
conversation.
No,
no,
that was the next conversation.
how to start
How
a
to start a conversation.
conversation.
It's like a couple of years ago, right? And so that book helped us realize that whoever's asking the questions has the power.
Power.
Right. And so that changed something for me. That sat different with me as opposed to again just defining things as what I thought was power. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I just know that for me now, power shows up when I'm able to reserve my energy.
Mm.
And so power shows up for me when I understand that in Isaiah 55, it says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways.
Yeah.
I understand that power to me just means that I have to ask for a specific wisdom to maintain and to reserve my energy for that moment. And I don't have to have the last word. I don't have to have the biggest voice in the room. And I don't have to show up in anger to exert my power. My power can stay with me. And that's where I find that's where I find I have the most control with it. Right. So I don't know. How about you? How does that look like? Or how do you, what do you think about it when you say, gentleness as power?
Gentleness to me is strength under control. You have to show your strength. You have to be under control when you put gentleness in there. It's peace, it's clarity. It's all those things above. It's being confident.
Right.
It's being, responsible
Mhm.
with who you talk to, how you talk to people, when you talk to them. Sometimes you lash out at people, like you said, and you're being cruel and mean, and they taking it one way, and you taking it as you're just being you.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's not you just being you. They're taking it the way it's given. It's not.
Mhm.
It's not. It's not in gentleness. It's in the power that they're showing behind it.
So you said gentleness is clarity,
Gentleness is strength under control.
a strength under control,
It's
and
peace. It's clarity. It's intentional.
yeah.
It's
That's what I
without.
got
It's
out of
without
that.
pressure.
Right.
I I would like to expound on that in a matter of, because so there's a lot of times that when we've talked about some of the books that we've read,
Mhm.
it's a perception, right?
Mhm.
Just like the book by Torrey Roberts, Balance.
Mhm.
When I initially thought about that book and the title of that book, I thought it was going to be something such as work life balance, right?
Right.
Because that was what I thought about balance.
Right.
But in all actuality, that book was about basically getting in touch with who you are, setting boundaries to have balance in in your life in all areas, right?
Mhm.
And when when you brought up Matthew 12
Mhm.
37, it took me to Psalm 69 and 15.
Mhm.
And in Psalm 69 and 15, uh, it says, "Let not the flood water overflow me,
Mm.
nor let the deep shallow me up, and let not the pit shut its mouth on me." Meaning that even though when sometimes our power can be silent,
Mhm.
that we still, in that silent moment, we still have to understand what we're thinking and how we will proceed in that particular moment.
Mhm. Balance was one of those books that,
Recognize.
yeah.
Yeah.
Balance was one of those books. I'm glad you brought up Balance, because when you said that, it took me to self-awareness and soul awareness.
That is, yeah.
That I felt like, okay, you think you have enough knowledge about, on the surface level of what's going on. But then you start to tap into self-awareness and soul awareness, and that is it could be a very easy road if you're in tune with yourself, but if you are disconnected from yourself, that is a very scary thing to attack, because I feel like a lot of us are just shaped by our experiences, and then we hold on to that identity, and we don't do the work that is necessary to really understand what certain things and what certain dynamics mean to us, because we are either afraid it's going to change everything that we know, and we're comfortable just knowing what we know. I brought up the other day, I told you, what was it, TV dinners? We talked about TV dinners, right? How I felt like, I tell my daughter TV dinners, like, okay, your dad's gonna put a TV dinner in the microwave, and she's like, what's a TV dinner? Why do you call it a TV dinner? And I'm like, no, my parents just called it a TV dinner, and that's what we called it, and like, I didn't ask any questions, or I didn't
understand
right,
why it was being called
that, right.
dinner.
And so that's the type of work that I feel like we have to do within ourselves, that soul awareness and that self-awareness, like the book Balance by Tori Roberts talks about.
The reason I was bringing that up actually is something to expound on what Twanda was saying about how we perceive, sometimes when people say it's your perception of how I'm saying it to you. And if you think, well, that was mean or that was not appropriate, is it truly that it wasn't appropriate, or is it that that's the way you took it because of your experiences? Because even though someone could truly be not mean it in a way that is not loving or kind, but because of who they have grown up to be and who you have grown up to be, those I'm learning that there are personality clashes and personality conflicts.
Right.
There was a time when, when I was growing up, if I had beef with someone, then all my friends had beef with that person too.
No, for real.
And so, but as I grew older, I learned that just because you might not get along with that person doesn't mean I'm not going to get along with that person because of the personality conflict,
Right.
that other people have. So, when we talk, I know we had a conversation not too long ago about how we alpha females.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I think that was last week. Yeah.
And so if you are, if you consider yourself an alpha female, there may definitely be conflict.
Oh, sure.
Because uh you're both very headstrong and saying the same thing in a different way,
right,
but wanting the but wanting
can we just
the same result.
Can we just be honest? How many times that happens, even with me and you? We be saying the same thing, but if it doesn't come out verbatim,
The way
it's like, oh yeah, that's not what I meant. I'm like, no, that's exactly what we meant. But it's just, you're right. It's personality,
perception, personality conflicts.
Yeah.
Can definitely have a way of when you're trying to be gentle but still remain confident. Let's say confident, right? Because and there's a difference between being confident and having pride.
And domination.
Right.
And domination. Sometimes domination.
So when we are confident in who we are, we may, for someone who doesn't have that confidence, they may feel that you are, as Wanda was saying, trying to dominate, right? But when you're gentle, you put yourself, when you have power and you're gentle, you put yourself in a position that you're human, that you don't allow people to dehumanize you,
Right.
because you can still show them your flaws, in a sense, right? And so this is such a good conversation. If you are listening right now and you know someone else who needs to hear this conversation, please tag, and also subscribe to this, and have them to subscribe as well. But I'm telling you right now, this conversation, you will not hear this conversation specifically in any other platform, because gentleness as power is not a easy topic to discuss, especially, as women, as women of color. It is definitely something that we have to be careful about.
Yeah.
In the way that we speak to each other, speak to other people, because a lot of times, as we've already established in this panel today, that perception of how it comes across can be detrimental to the way it is perceived.
Yep. And it's truly just about having a better conversation and learning that there are different dynamics in conversation, and that it doesn't have to be a straight line like we were taught. It could definitely grow. If you need to pick up a book, if you need to gain the wisdom, if you need to gain the knowledge, if you just need to sit in prayer, whatever you need to do to realize that change is one, inevitable, but it's also power too. There's power in change. There's power in all the things that we need to do to show up better in this world and just be our authentic self, as well as connect to one another, because that's what we're missing in this world right now. It's the connection. People are like, you can't connect to me, I want nothing to do with you. And so we have to have a better conversation about why we don't want to take the responsibility of having deep connective conversations, because that's what it truly was. I said something to the other person. I said something to someone the other day, and I said, they're like, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna do it like this. I said, okay, well, you have risks when you do it like that. Or I said it, you do it at your own risk. And they got offended. And then I said, I'm not here to offend you. I'm releasing the responsibility of trying to make you do what I want you to do.
Right.
And so I'm allowing you to take that information and just say, wait, I don't have to worry. I don't have to be frantic. I don't have to. I'm giving you that space. But you heard it with angry ears. You heard it with wanting power. You heard it with me. So opening up our ears, learning to listen better, learning to articulate better, learning to meet people where they are, you'll find the connection and you'll bridge that divide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The calm tone, the slow breathing, the clear boundaries, the intentional words. Sometimes people have the words that they're being very intentional about and very boisterous. And sometimes people don't like to feel that, feel that type of way. It makes them feel some type of way when people just use their tone instead of talking in simple, hey, can I talk to you for a moment? Not, hey, can I talk to you for a moment? No.
It's that assertiveness.
And as we have established before we read a lot of books, and there was one book that it's not that we read it a lot, we've read it. It's actually a resource for us, and it's the um, emotional intelligence by Travis Bradbury, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of and then we also had the book Executive Intelligence, and I don't know why the author is um not coming to me, but it said something in that book that we were talking about that is very profound. The initial framework is that of our previous perspective, our previous experiences. So how do we change that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That how do we change that? We have to ask ourselves questions
Mm-hmm.
in the moment. Questions like, what am I missing?
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing something?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that is being said that I'm not hearing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and always reevaluating self as kind of like what in the Bible, as it talks about looking at the plank in your own eye
Right.
before
Just.
judging the other person with that has the plank in their eye.
Mm-hmm.
So I leave us today with always asking, what am I missing?
Right. That's good.
What am I missing?
Yep.
And who benefits from this?
Mm-hmm. That's real good.
Do I leave my opponent with their emotions intact?
Mm-hmm. That's really good.
And if I didn't do that, how can I?
Mm.
How can I leave the person that I'm talking to with their emotions intact?
And sometimes that's just not saying nothing.
Sometimes you just gotta not say nothing. I'll use
Yeah.
wisdom
Yeah.
instead of force.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I'm just so glad that we were able to have this conversation today. Like, subscribe, please invite someone to this platform, Empowered Voices. Again, we are here wanting your voice to be heard, telling stories that mean something to someone else. Even the smallest story that you think doesn't mean anything will mean something.
Yes. Yes. All right, ladies. It's been fun. Until next time, everybody. I hope you
Yeah.
have a wonderful day. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
You're